Hi, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right? So I'm going to sing a little bit, and you're going to shout afterwards, all right? Everything, everything, everything's going to be all right here this afternoon. Oh, oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm going to talk about that beautiful blue ocean, and it's about getting your games on more than one platform and also some other tricks to sort of expand your swimming space. First, we'll deal with the fact that the presenter here neglected to mention my last name. So it's still the worst name in the industry, and these slides, I'm going to have them available to anyone who wants them. So if you want to, please come up and talk to me afterwards, or take a quick picture right now and send me an email with that stuff. You're going to hurry. You got another 5 seconds to do it. Zero. Okay. So I should also say that these slides are not the absolute truth. This is how we sort of, how we can maximize our stuff at Image & Form in Sweden. Image & Form started out as a work-for-hire studio a very long time ago, and we were totally unfamous until 2011, when you all started hearing about me the first time, right? A game on mobile, and it was famous for about 72 hours until it was featured by Apple, and we thought we were rock stars and couldn't do anything wrong. But we could apparently self-publish, and we decided to stick with that. In 2013, we released a game called Steamworld Dig on the 3DS. Yeah, I love that. Does anyone here have a 3DS? Oh, good, good. Anybody play Steamworld Dig? Oh, wow. I'll pay you guys later. Thank you. That was the thing for us, because we were doing work for hire and we were trying to do our own thing on mobile, but we were just constantly unfamous, and it was quite difficult, I think. And so we decided to try the 3DS in 2013, because we thought that mobile was getting a little bit too congested for what we could cope with. It was sort of scary to do premium titles on iOS. There were so many games coming out. And so it's basically out on every other platform than mobile, Steamworld Dig is. The main reason for not going mobile with it is the controls. We can't seem to come up with a good control scheme with using, what do you call it, on-screen joysticks, D-pad, etc. If anyone has a perfect formula for that, I'll buy it. Thank you. We think there is something new to self-publishing. When we were doing stuff on mobile, everyone was keeping very much to themselves, being very secretive with their contacts and so on. We realized that that's not really how you do it. And so Image & Form is now working very closely together with Zoink Games, also in Gothenburg, very close to us. And they're about the same size as us, about as ugly as we are, and we have the same sort of challenges, and we're also good at roughly the same things. They do games in Unity, we don't, otherwise we're very similar. And so if you're sort of thinking about collaborating with someone, with some developer, just look in your nearest community and find someone to work together with, because 2 or 3 or 4 is always stronger than 1. That's something that we took with us from that stingy mobile, those stingy mobile days. In 2015, which is this year, we're releasing a game called Steamworld Heist, and it's coming this fall, and it's also coming to mobile. I'm just going to show you a real quick video clip. It's the teaser trailer for Steamworld Heist here.
and the man in the moon. And the little birds are nesting, and I listen to them too.
You can sort of tell that it's a teaser trailer, right? Because it doesn't contain anything. But I thought it was kind of interesting to show that again. It's been a while. Steamworld Heist is a turn-based combat game featuring steam-driven robots in space. So it's quite different from the steam-driven robots that were doing mining and platforming in Steamworld Dig. Two very, very different games. What do you call this? This escalator, I just wanted to say that this is how we want our business to work the whole time, right? We just go on the escalator and we get to the top and we make a shitload of money. Even better, if we had one of these devices, then we wouldn't even have to stand on that escalator. It would take us straight to the top. But we're like this little guy here, usually. I don't know if you agree with me, but this is how we feel. There. That's us. The indie studio trying to make it... sorry? Yeah, it's very optimistic. He's going to make it, right? I think he's going to make it. And if he doesn't, then he's going to fall down and break his neck. The topic is that beautiful blue ocean. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about oceans, lakes, and ponds. You know all of this stuff that I'm going to present here now, but it's just solid facts. And if you don't have your numbers up to speed, then we'll quickly go through it. So you're familiar with the concept of blue ocean versus red ocean. A red ocean is where you sort of go into business and you compete with people who are already doing the stuff that you're going into business with. And so it's sort of like a finite space, meaning that if you're making more money, somebody's making less money and so on. But the blue ocean is where you can find like new market space where nobody really is. And that's something that we dream of finding, isn't it? Because we're all inventive. We're not like cutthroat competitors. That's not how I feel when I talk to indie developers. It's rather what can we sort of come up with that takes us into, that leads to sales that doesn't necessarily mooch off anyone else. The App Store is the big ocean in the game industry today. There are more than 100 billion downloads. It's half of those are my wife, I think. And there are more than 500 million user accounts. It's huge. But there's like 1.8 million apps on the App Store, and there are 400,000 active games, meaning games that haven't been taken down. There are 400,000 games sitting on the App Store. And there are more than 400,000 app publishers. Obviously, that includes like other apps other than games. So it's sort of a very red ocean. It's a huge ocean, but it's very congested. And that means that there's very low visibility, you know this. And non-gamers aren't really interested in games. That's a rude thing to say, perhaps. But my mother doesn't care for games, for example, and I classify her as a non-gamer. She actually thinks I should grow up and get a job, a real job. And free-to-play can really compromise gameplay, and I stand by that because it means that we have to sort of simplify games or make them very, very readily attainable so that we can sort of get into them immediately and hopefully not leave. And I think that sort of makes a lot of developers shy away from deep gameplay. Not everyone. Steam is somewhat smaller, but it's still an ocean. Now they've passed 800 million downloads on Steam. So there are now more than 135 million active users on Steam, and they're gamers. Now we're getting somewhere, right? These people are interested in games. But there are more than 5,600 games there. And there are huge backlogs. Who here has a Steam backlog? Hand up. Right. Right. You see, right? You're never going to be able to play those games. 40% of the downloads are not being played and probably won't be played. And the customers on Steam usually, or typically, they buy when it's on sale. And also the storefront has sort of moved away from what's the most interesting to the top sellers. It's difficult. So you get not as bad visibility as on the App Store, but it's still kind of low. You rarely sell your games at full price because the customers are used to, they feel they don't have to buy your games at full price. And also you get a very short exposure in the store. But obviously we can have excellent experiences there, right? I think I read something by the guy who made Fez, Phil Fish. He wrote that in 8 hours during a flash sale, he made a lot more money than he made like throughout the rest of the time on Steam. So we can still make quite a bit of cash. PlayStation Network and Xbox Store, I wouldn't call those oceans, so let's call them lakes, like those American lakes, big lakes. 25 million PS4 units sold and 4 million Vita. The Xbox, Microsoft has stopped making their figures public, so that's just a guess from me that it's around 20 million units. And people there are very interested in games, and they like high-quality games. But we know this, that AAA titles are very, very strong on PlayStation Network or on PlayStation and Xbox. So we have to compete with that. And typically, these users don't buy that many titles if you sort of take an average. They buy a few, and they often buy big titles like FIFA and Call of Duty and those things. And also, those units, they have to sort of compete with your little sister who wants to play her DVD movies, right? So it's pretty hard. The 3DS eShop is sort of a hidden lake, I think, because there are a lot of people who don't decide to go there. You can sort of see it in the numbers. There's like 53 million units sold, so it's the biggest current generation console, actually. And the loyalty is just immense. Once a Nintendo fan, always a Nintendo fan. And they also insist on getting high-quality games. And there are so few games on the 3DS eShop. I think I'm actually counting high here with 900 games. I was checking out the American store, and then I compared it to the European store, and there were a lot fewer titles on the European store. But obviously, you compete with Nintendo themselves, and they're always going to hog the limelight, no matter what you do. They're always going to be more interested in selling their own titles first. Also, there's a big difference between what's offered in the US, what's offered in Japan, and what's offered in Europe because of this region lock thing. And actually, only 2/3 of everyone who owns a 3DS unit is an eShop customer. So that means that, yep, that's what they get, and people get annoyed about this lack of games in their region. And actually, if you take into account that it's only 2/3, then it's only 35 million accounts. Nintendo Wii U eShop is the small pond. It's like the cousin from the country compared to the 3DS. It's the same pros and cons as the 3DS eShop, but it's only 20% as big as the 3DS. And that makes it quite small. I think there's around 10 million units sold worldwide. It's not very big. And also, if you compare it to PlayStation Network, where you can sort of do cross-buys and so on between PS4 and Vita, you can't really do that with the 3DS and the Wii U seamlessly over every region and so on. So the question is, what waters do we want to swim in? I've presented a few here. What's your favorite pick? Anyone? Shout. Steam? Yeah, okay. Everywhere, of course, right? Sorry, the question was stupid. So if we're going to swim everywhere, we got to start talking about eggs and baskets. I love the way I use these analogies. Nobody gets it. So here, when we start out, we have one egg and we have one basket. That is, we have one game and we are making it for one platform. From a tech standpoint and so on, it's quite clever to add more eggs to that one basket, making more games for that one platform. And it needs to be good eggs, like good games. Are you with me? Of course, there's no need to make bad games. So it makes sense. It's the same tech, it's the same community. You're already there, you know how to handle it. So it's very convenient. But developing new games the whole time is very expensive. Or maybe we're doing it wrong, but I hope you agree with me that it actually costs a bit of money to make a game. Hopefully it costs a bit of money, so it's good. And also the platform, the basket, it actually changes over time. It gets more congested, you lose visibility perhaps, or even worse, the platform gets old and starts losing popularity. And if you have all your eggs in that one basket, where does that leave you in the end? So we need to defy that old truth about putting all your eggs in one basket. You can use that same egg, just buy more baskets or get more baskets because you don't have to buy platforms. That is the new blue ocean because a lot of the platforms today, like PS4, Xbox One, PC, and therefore also Mac and Linux, they're very similar. And porting to a lot of different platforms is cheap compared to development. That means that, at least in our experience, when we decided not to make Steamworld Dig for mobile, it was because of the input method. We couldn't get this right. So we sort of found a watershed between, at least for that game, between mobile and every other platform. And so we decided to go for all the other platforms. And if you combine those platforms, you actually you can get super healthy sales out of that without having to drop your price and so on. You can get your game out at the price point that you were hoping for. And also you yourself, you determine the release order. You talk to the platform owners, and then you sort of decide for yourself what platform is coming first and what comes next and what comes last, etc. What we did is we started with the 3DS because we just thought if we start low with the simplest specs, then everything can just get better from there. So with the Steamworld Dig, we took it to 3DS, then to Steam, then to PlayStation 4 and Vita, then to Wii U actually, and then to Xbox One. The first version is usually the weakest, and the last one is usually the best because you have more time to add stuff to it. So there's like, nobody gets really sad along that way because when they get it late, they get a really good game out of you. Also, you've got to keep in mind that if you're talking to Sony and Microsoft, because of the parity clause that Microsoft has in place, that they don't really want to publish games later than Sony. So you sort of have to sort that out. Can you do it simultaneously, for example? IP is very important, I think, and that's another side of this new blue ocean. If you can get your games going so that you can have likable characters and so on, then you will be able to use that IP to make a lot of different types of games. So making games for one genre is convenient. It's the same tech, it's the same community, and you do it again and again and again. But you sort of end up in this sequel hell, I think. And it becomes pretty tough to get out of that. And like the people who are going to buy your game version 2 is probably from the consumer base that bought number 1. So it might dwindle along the way. But it could also obviously work the other way, but this is a risk. And if you keep doing the same thing the whole time, your skill set doesn't evolve very much. And the risk is that people quit your company because they're so bored. We made 25 edutainment games at Image & Form. And I was half expecting to find people sort of committing suicide a bit out of boredom. But if you could use the same IP, if you come up with characters and a setting, etc., and a story that is decent, you can actually use that as a core to make a lot of different games. And obviously, that's what we did with Steamworld Dig. I'm not saying that this is a universal truth, but it really worked it seems to really have worked for us. We still have to see those sales for Steamworld Heist, but I'll tell you that the hype for Steamworld Heist is on a totally different level than it was for Steamworld Dig. When we made Steamworld Dig, nobody knew about Image & Form or Steamworld. We had actually made a Steamworld game before that. Dig became popular. Heist is now the #1 expected game, or anticipated game, you say in English, for the 3DS that's coming out this year. And that's fabulous to be a small, shitty studio in rainy, windy Gothenburg, Sweden, and have that sort of outlook on the future. And this is actually something that we intended to do. We've decided that we have a decent backstory in Steamworld. We have a very, very good art director who keeps the style throughout the games. We try to make characters that aren't just in the game and get blown up, but actually who have a small bit of personality. And then we have a lot of gameplay ideas. And that actually frees us a lot because we can make any kind of game within the Steamworld universe. And so I think we're pretty well set. Of course, it can be dangerous because if we make a game that is very different from a game that was popular, we risk losing the community support. And also, it costs a lot to develop new types of games the whole time. But fuck that risk, because we only live once, right? If there's a game that you want to make, find the cash and make it. And see if you can do a franchise with your own IP out of that. You'll have more and different golden eggs. Everybody will love you for it because you're so cool. And also the studio will know a lot more shit. And obviously there's going to be a lot of buzz and visibility about your games because what possibly are they going to do next? About building a following real quick here. Getting followers is easy because you can buy them these days. But that's not my answer, really, because money can't buy you love, so you shouldn't be buying followers. I think actually you can do stuff like that, even on Twitter today, where you can sort of get a huge following. But I've followed a few publishers who have done that, and it seems like they get all those followers, and then they get all the unfollowers to follow them. I think you need to do this. Remember this guy? Getting a community that roots for you is this. Because it is one step at a time, one gamer at a time, one journalist at a time, one platform owner at a time that you need to sort of take care of. Gamers are lonely people. Well, maybe not everybody, but they want your love. If you talk to them, if you as a game developer talk to them, it's like a rock star talking to a fan. You should do that. You should never miss an opportunity to do that. Journalists, they definitely are lonely people. And they need your love. So, yeah, you should just reach out and touch them. They will love you for it. And they will actually follow you, too. They won't be, like, hesitant to do more stuff with you. Platform owners, they're not lonely because they've got that big bag of candy in the schoolyard, right? Everybody wants to be friends with the platform owner. So then make sure to become their good friend, their true friend, the guy who doesn't just want the candy, the guy who wants to hold him when the going gets tough. Most importantly, be kind to everyone. That is something that I try to be. I try very hard not being an asshole. If someone writes something that is incorrect and rude about our games, the best thing is obviously not to start a shouting fest, but to actually talk to that person, perhaps sort of slip him a free code because he wasn't happy about it, and then he's your best friend forever. I actually have quite a few cases of that, and you can only benefit from that. So be kind. Be kind. And then you should gather everyone around your games. We started a program called Steamworld Ambassador Challenge, or Steamworld Ambassador Program. And that means that we have sort of creative challenges for our followers on our blog that we give them, we suggest a task, and then they come in with suggestions, like draw this, or write this, or how would this work? And then the person who wins, or the few people who win, if we decide to pick more winners, we make them Steamworld ambassadors, and they will get every Steamworld game that comes out on every platform, a few codes each, so they can sort of give it out to their friends. Those things don't cost us anything, and it's just easy PR, because those people are so grateful. Obviously, they should be grateful because they get stuff for free, but they get so emotional about it. It's just good business. You should do that. That's me. Thank you. Sorry.